Let's talk to Henry Smith, former Conservative MP. Henry, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I know we're going to talk about Brexit. We're going to talk about Sadiq Khan, who apparently wants to annex London, as he always did, and make it part of the European Union again. But I must ask you about this. The foreign aid budget, which is always something that gets people's goat, incredibly discovered this morning that 250 grand, more or less, has been given to Kuala Lumpur to solve their traffic problems. And I'm looking out the window here going, what about the traffic problems in London?
Well, exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous. I remember when I was a county council leader responsible for local highways, we would have loved that sort of funding from central government to be able to help fix potholes and other highway defects. And the fact that we are sending it thousands of miles away to a country like Malaysia, which isn't a poor country, to fix their roads is really an insult. It seems that the government can take money away from pensioners for their winter fuel allowance, but it can't spend money on its own roads. It prefers to send that money abroad. It really is a bizarre and worrying set of priorities. It
really is. And I mean, just in general, I mean, have you seen a government start as badly as this? I mean, I know that you're a Conservative, so you would say that anyway. But I mean, I'm perfectly willing to congratulate a new government on doing some good stuff. But they are seemingly getting everything wrong right now.
Well, it seems like it's been a very short honeymoon period that they had. The thing is, though, under our system, they have a two-thirds Commons majority with just 34% of the vote, and that means that they will be in office for at least 4.5 years, probably, which means an awful lot more can be done between then and now. So I obviously don't like that situation, but that is what the result of the general election was. But I think there's more to come.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. And of course, as you might expect, conversations already beginning and being started about the European Union, I mean, Keir Starmer's already said that he wants to have closer ties. Nobody's quite sure what that means, that he doesn't want to necessarily get back into a single market, doesn't necessarily want to rejoin. But Sadiq Khan basically says he wants to in the medium to long term.
Well, I think we see a bit of a split here in stated Labour Party policy. I mean, I'm also concerned about sort of very generic terms from Keir Starmer talking about a closer relationship. Well, of course, as a country that's a global country, we want good, close relationships with countries around the world, including Europe. But it's all a bit vague, and my concern is that it actually hides an agenda to rejoin the European Union by the back door. And perhaps Sadiq Khan has let slip actually what many in Labour are thinking about, and that is this sort of what they call things like dynamic alignment, which basically my concern is it means that we take all the rules of the European Union, those rules that sort of deaden our ability to really make the most of our independence and grow our economy, but we don't have any say in that. But so Sadiq Khan, we were talking about roads earlier on, he really should stick to his core job that he's supposed to be doing as Mayor of London, and that's sort out things like the roads through Transport for London and the other transport infrastructure. He really needs to concentrate on things like that and bringing down knife crime before he starts opining on foreign policy issues.
Right. I mean, those people, and there are plenty of them, I'm not one of them, by the way, who say that, oh, you know, Brexit's been a big disaster for this country, it's the worst thing that ever happened, you know, it's caused all sorts of problems from, you know, financial disasters to medical shortages and all the rest of it. I mean, you know, those people who have those kinds of opinions and those kinds of voices are being kind of encouraged, aren't they? Because in a way, the Tories didn't do it right. We didn't really get the Brexit that we voted for, if you know what I mean.
Well, certainly one of the reasons why I decided not to seek re-election at the recent general election in July was because I think we squandered what was then an 80-seat Conservative majority to really realise some of those Brexit freedoms that we could have done. There was so much more that we could have done. And yes, there was a global pandemic. Yes, there has been war in Europe and all of the consequences, the economic consequences of that. But we could have done so much more. Part of that was the civil service deliberately holding back on realising a lot of those benefits. But it's simply not true to say that this country has suffered since leaving the European Union. if you actually look at the economic well-being of the Eurozone, for example, their growth is much slower than it is here in the United Kingdom. When you're talking about energy prices and inflation, they too have been suffering from what has been a global phenomenon caused by things like Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the consequences of the COVID aftermath. So the idea that everything is rosy over the channel in the European Union is just not the case. I'm afraid countries around the world have suffered very similar challenges, and we really can still realise those benefits of Brexit. I doubt that's going to be possible under a Labour government, but we shouldn't allow ourselves this narrative that somehow Brexit has been a failure, Brexit has caused all sorts of problems. That actually has meant that we've been able to be far more agile in responding to, for example, the COVID pandemic than many countries in Europe were, who had to all follow one single tune coming out of Brussels, whether that was right for their local economies or not.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you, Henry. Thank you very much indeed. Henry Smith, former Conservative MP, who was, of course, a Brexiteer when he was in Parliament.